So my name is David Miles. I am a technical recruiter with Savio Systems, and we are a staffing firm that specializes in information technology professions. So today I am going to go over how to build a professional IT resume and how to better market yourself before you go in for an interview. So what I will cover today is how to make a good first impression with potential employers, how to make your skill sets pop off your resume, and the correct way to package code samples if a potential employer requires that. So we'll start off by saying, why is your resume important? Everyone has a resume. Everyone is looking for a job at one point in their lives. So you need to make sure that your resume is a very viable piece of who you are and showcases what you can do. Your resume is your first impression with any potential employer. So all of the employers, they look at your resume before they even decide to interview you, so you need to make sure that it makes an impact.
Go ahead. Oh, you need to go for it? You make sure. We're recording. Okay, we're recording. All right.
Yeah, except the style of those resumes has changed dramatically.
Yeah.
Over the years.
Tell me a little bit about that.
You see all this white hair?
I do. Yeah.
When I was looking for my first straight chronological resume is what you did. You don't do that anymore.
Right.
Not at all.
That's a good point. Well, and most hiring managers spend less than 30 seconds reviewing your resume. So you need to make sure that what position you're applying for kind of pops off your resume so people understand that you could do what you're applying.
And that hasn't changed in 30 years. And the other risk is if an HR person looks at the resume first, if it doesn't say ASP.NET, it could say something equivalent, but if it doesn't have the right buzzword that they're looking for, you're out.
Absolutely. And that goes with all the search sites too. Monster, Career Builder, Indeed.com. You need to make sure that those buzzwords or those words that you're searching for are on your resume. Otherwise, potential employers will just pass it over.
Wow. Okay.
A good resume is also
hard fact.
A good resume is also a way to showcase what technologies you've worked with. So you need to make sure that you have your experience on your resume. Otherwise, what's the point of having a resume? And it's also the best way to showcase your professional accomplishments. All right, so quickly, what do you want to include on your resume? For example, your resume right now, what do you have on it? What are the big points?
Just the languages I've learned at CNM.
Okay.
Because I don't have any experience in the field or anything.
No. Well, what about, do you have some of your side projects on your resume?
I'm actually working on a few side projects to put on there.
Okay. Yeah. Very cool. Do you have a GitHub page?
I do not.
Yeah, I recommend starting a GitHub. That way you can kind of showcase what you do online. Do you guys have GitHub pages? Brian?
GitHub and Visual Studio.
Are you part of the Deep Divers Club? Are you aware of that program in CNM?
Not.
Oh, they help you with that as well. They'll get you with. But I can send you the gentleman's professor's name, Dylan.
I haven't met him. That'd be great.
Yeah, he can definitely get you a line with that.
Okay.
There's going to be a C# deep dive this summer too.
Yes.
This one? This summer? Yeah, I've seen it. The instructor's pretty cool.
Yeah. Is he here now?
He's here.
Yeah, and Jamie's absolutely right. The deep dive coders, it's like an grueling, 6-week, just crazy intense thing.
The PHP one, because it's during the day,
And that one's HTML, all web-based, not C#.
The C# one is going to go, it's 10 weeks, 2 nights and 1 Saturday, 10 weeks. And it's going to walk you from soup to nuts to MVC4. All C#.
When is this? When are you doing this?
June or July.
Okay. Thank you.
So what do we include on our resume? First off, contact info. I can't stress this enough that your contact info needs to be on your resumes, and it needs to be very professional. If you have a personal email that's, Katy Perry fan 982, don't use that one. You need to have a really professional email address where people can contact you, the correct address, the correct phone number, all of that good stuff. Career profile. This should be brief, 1 to 2 sentences at the top of your resume, just saying what you want to accomplish in a position. So for each position you apply for, you want your resume to be unique. So you want to showcase, exactly kind of what technologies that you've used and say, I want to be a C# developer, and I want to grow in a company. It's a great career profile.
David, you're okay with interruptions, right?
Of course.
Because this is something I, started trying to do in my resume a couple of years ago. Is trying to tailor it to specific jobs and stuff. But I find that very difficult to do, especially for an old fart like me that has, all this weird experience all over the place. How do you tailor? I know you're going to tell me, well, you got to go research the company and you tailor it based on the company. But
I'm not going to say that at all.
Really? Okay, let's hear how you tailor that to get to it.
First thing, you need to go and research the company. No, sir. No, you just, there's a way to, for example, what your job description is, or, what you have on your card, that's not set in stone. So if your official job title is developer, you can change it. If you're going for a C# position, you can put C# developer if you did in fact develop in C#. So it's just little changes like that that go a long way.
I know that a lot of my resume customization is what's in the job description, what's in my resume needs to go up, right? So I'm constantly moving things around in my resume to match, to make sure that the things that they list in their description is in my description, right? And it's at the top.
And near the top.
Well, see, now that's an interesting problem, because I've worked through, you recruiters and stuff. What do you got? You got one resume, don't you?
No, I have 2 of your resumes.
Oh, well, that's 2. That's probably too many. But you have that resume, and
Yeah, I can understand where you're coming from, but yeah, then you don't have.
I don't have control of that.
Right. It's when you're dealing with other companies, that's when you can adjust it. Unfortunately, you got to put your faith in this fine gentleman, David.
Yeah. Well, he's got a good name, so it can't be all that.
It's all right.
And Shady here too.
He's going to be the one who basically verbally customizes your resume.
I agree.
When he presents you to a client.
I agree, but it's a frustrating thing to me, because there are so many things that I have done at this point. There's no way for me to highlight the right stuff, is what I'm getting at.
I understand that, but with your experience, it's pretty easy to find some keywords or some experience to go along with the jobs.
Yeah, my resume just keeps getting longer, and that's all. That's a concern for me too.
Well, now keep in mind that there's not a perfect way to build a resume. Everyone has a different resume, a format. For my different clients, and not to, this is a benefit of using a staffing agency, is that we know what our clients want, and we know how to tailor make a resume to really appeal to them.
Mm-hmm.
So just to plug staffing and recruiting a little bit.
But do you do that? Do you then go take his resume and tailor it when you're about to present him to a client?
I do, yes. With each of my candidates, I work on their resume before sending it out to a client.
This is a piece that I did not know. So, all right, well, that's interesting. Okay.
And I'm sure if you asked Dave nicely, he would send you the job description, and you could create your own resume.
Yeah, but he sends me a damn bill when he does that. So.
I do, and I don't trust people to do their own stuff.
Especially programmers who do their own resume.
Exactly. It just comes back in code, and you just don't know what's going on.
I like pushing 1s and 0s. Come on, man. All right.
One thing I'd like to suggest on contact information, I use a Google Voice number so that it doesn't ring at my day job. So I get it, it will automatically text me when somebody sends me a voicemail, but I use my Google Voice number on my resume, and then once I start communication with folks, then I switch them to my cell, but I don't want phone calls throughout the day or text messages or whatever from prospective employers during my day job.
Right.
Especially in a meeting with your boss.
Right.
Right. I think you can give them your boss's number just to make sure they contact you.
That's the way we used to get rid of our bosses.
Oh, right.
That's true. That's true.
You write a great resume for the boss
Your
and you
boss and put it
send
out
it
there.
everywhere.
Damn straight.
It's a great idea.
You think we're kidding?
You think we're kidding, don't you?
No.
I don't know if it has to do something like that.
And then you put your boss's boss as the reference.
All
Sorry.
right.
Sorry.
Work experience. So you want to include your work history. Now, for seasoned developers, it's okay to drop a couple jobs that you did in the 90s or the 80s if you need to make room. You don't want to send a 4-page resume. 2 pages is enough if you can get all of your stuff on there. You want to include your experience, your job title, and then the dates that you worked as well.
Yeah.
And sevens, Tom.
Education. You want to include all of your education, and this just isn't, the diplomas that you have. And you want to include certifications. You want to include any type of, advanced skill set courses that you have. Just that way, they know that you're a go-getter. One thing to keep in mind with education: you do not want to include any education if it isn't completed. So if you put, a bachelor's degree will be completed in, 2019, just keep that off your resume if it's not done. And then finally, skill sets. This is where you can really plug in a lot of those keywords and terms that people would want to, that people will search for, especially on Monster and Career Builder, things like that. All right, so now how to improve your resume. Always bold your job title. The big thing about resumes is readability. You want people to, easily kind of scan through your resume. If hiring managers only have 30 seconds to see your resume, make sure that what you want them to know really pops off the page. Bullet point experience. Do not use huge paragraphs, and I can't stress this enough. I've seen a lot of resumes where you have just paragraphs and paragraphs, and it's like a short story. You do not want a short story because no one is going to read it. So bullet all of the body of your resume for each job description. Always make sure that you address gaps in employment. This is really important. If you were unemployed for a year, you need to fill up that space with what you were doing there. And don't just say, I was job searching. I mean, if you volunteered somewhere, you need to add that there because you don't want people to, it's a red flag if they see like, well, you weren't doing anything for a year. People would get a little concerned, and then they wouldn't want to interview you. Add months and years to each position. So I've seen a lot of resumes where they say things like, I was a developer from 2013 to 2014. That just doesn't make any sense. You need to have months in there because 2013 to 2014, it could either mean you were there for a month, December 2013 to January 2014, or it could mean that you were there for 22 months. So always make sure that you add the months. And for each position that you have worked, you need to highlight technologies in a bullet point. So just put all the languages that you use, the databases that you've used, pretty much everything. So Tom, how many of these things do you have on your resume?
What makes you think I have a resume?
I don't know.
I own my own company. I don't need a resume.
Yeah.
I do have one, but it fits on one page, and it's basically, actually, mine is what I call an accomplishments-based resume. That the emphasis on anything in my resume is going to be, or on my CV, is going to be what project I undertook and what the payoff was for. Example, team leader developing an online or at that point back then it was dial-in insurance proposal system, shortened, and the result was it shortened the response time for the field agents to queries from customers, provided certain benefit, and if you have a financial impact, saved X dollars or noticeable increase in volume of business or something like that, that's got to go on there. Because some people will look and say, okay, it's nice that you can write in Swahili code, but you're not talking to me as a business person, you're talking to me as a geek. And a lot of times, the people either reviewing your resume or doing the first round of interviews are looking for a more well-rounded business person. And showing that you have the focus on the bottom line and increasing revenue or decreasing cost or whatever does make a difference.
Very good.
That's funny because I know all those things. Boy, I have a hard time getting into my resume, getting into the resume. What you just said is exactly right. And when I'm interviewing and looking for a new employee, those are the types of things I want to see. But for some reason, I have a heck of a time putting them on paper for myself. So
Well, it's always harder to do it for yourself.
yeah. So
All right. So this is an example of a bad resume. This is one of my candidates, and she allowed me to use her resume as long as I kind of, when I watched all the info on it.
right.
Pretty much, if you look at this, so right here, I mean, that body is just, it's pretty awful. I mean, no one's going to go through and read all of those lines just because it looks like a big blob of nothing. Exactly. Now, if you look at this education, so how many degrees do you think that represents right there? Yeah. Well, it took a couple seconds for you to read that,
Yeah, 2+.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So obviously, this is not going to impress anyone. And even though she has this amazing skill set and she was able to find a position relatively quickly, this did not help her out at all. So this is the changes that I made. If you look at the education, pretty much I highlighted what her degree title was, and then it goes pretty much where she graduated from, and it's broken down, so now you can easily see that it's 3 degrees. And then her experience, I highlighted her position title and put the bullet points for the body. And does anyone disagree that this is a better resume, that this might turn a little more heads?
Okay, no, I don't disagree.
Dave, come on.
I don't disagree. I really don't. Yeah.
Right. It's cleaner and
Yeah.
people read it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Now, this is a really interesting part of this presentation. Potential employees will want to see, code samples when you apply for a job. And it needs to be really, well, first off, it needs to be error-free. I mean, that's the biggest thing. And it also needs to be readable, and you need to have examples of why you did things.
And it also needs to be something you're allowed to share.
Good point. Do not take any proprietary code out of your current job and send it somewhere. Yeah, that would be a big no-no.
Project Euler, code, what's the other one? There's a couple of coding sites out there. Codeval. They have programs you can go solve online. So and so those are good examples of here's my Codeval for this problem, right? And then it's clearly not proprietary. You're not.
There's a whole bunch of those out there
Right.
for HTML and all sorts of stuff. Things that I didn't even know existed until about 3 months ago.
Right. But yeah, like Euler is, if you really want tough problems, then go to Euler. If you want simpler stuff, then like FizzBuzz, go to Codeval.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. So first thing to do, when you're packaging your code, make sure that it's in the language you're applying for. If you're going for a C# position, do not send them anything with, PHP or Java. I mean, you need to send them a C# code. Aim for no more than 2 to 3 pages printed out. You don't want to bog them down with just a bunch of code. You want it to be really useful. You want it to, be the code that you want them to see. It should not be boilerplate code or something that you write every day or something that you just copy and paste out of for your GitHub page. I mean, you want it to be something that is going to wow potential employers. So make sure that it pops. Make sure that you're passionate about the code that you send over and that it is going to be special. And if you have some interesting design decisions, have some comments explaining why you made them. Brian, do you have an example of this?
This is one of my tough things because I write business apps, and for the most part, nothing I do is wowy. It's just, I connect to a database, I pull data out, I put it on a web page, and I go back. So
Somebody changes it, I make sure it updates.
So for me, and I have not been asked ever to submit a code sample. For me, in a code sample, I would have to, I'd have to come up with something. I'd have to go to CodeEval or Euler or something and try to find some decisions and do my own and do something unique.
David, what is the objective of an employer who requests to see a code sample?
Well, the
Does he
biggest.
just want to prove to himself that you know how to write C#? Or is he looking for some sort of gee whiz, golly, creative problem that you solved or coding that you did for some tricky thing, or what?
There are multiple reasons that they would want to see a code sample. A big one is that some candidates, if they have 12 years of coding or they've been doing this their whole career, they'll just go into an interview and say, oh yeah, I know C#, and that's kind of that. So they'll ask for a code sample and they'll say, but I've been doing this for 12 years. I mean, it's pretty obvious I know this. So it's pretty much just putting your money where your mouth is. They also want to make sure that you can code, that you would be an asset to their team.
It's interesting because I actually have been asked for a code sample for an online type thing. And I didn't have anything to offer them. They wanted me to do HTML stuff. And I had nothing to offer. And part of it was because I hadn't written much HTML. And I didn't lie to them when I said, I'm fairly new to HTML, but I have all this other experience. But I didn't have a, quote, code sample to give them. So I bagged it. I didn't need a job that bad.
No.
But the other point is that I can dummy up a code sample. It'll get me through an interview. But that's not how I'm really going to work when I'm on the job. You can fake it. I mean, you got to be careful, but it can be faked.
I heard that from a lot of developers.
But
Sorry?
right,
I heard that from a lot of developers.
Yeah, and that's
Just
true.
go study and.
There's not that much value in it.
So as a hiring manager, yeah, yes, you can fake me out. You can give me clean code, and and all I can do is take it at face value.
Right.
But here's the other side of it. There are a ton of developers with a ton of hubris who are going to give me their code, and I'm going to look at it and go, holy crap, I ain't hiring that person, right? Because they think they're better than they are, and they think their code is clean, and it's not. So you will catch a couple of people this way.
Okay.
All right. Fair enough.
So that is part of it too. And he's going to go into a couple other slides where we're going to get a little nitpicky where yes, a developer can or do stuff, but if they don't know what I'm looking for, then then that's a problem. Also, because I'm an educator, I can spot fishy code. I smell it.
Yeah.
Like, I can look at somebody's. What?
You're trained to find.
I'm trained. Yeah, I can literally look at somebody's code and go, yeah, you got that. I can go Google that. I'll find that code right now.
Yeah. No, I mean,
So, but, you know, the idea of the code sample is, you know, are they gonna jump through the hoop, right? Because Dave's like, I'm not doing no HTML code sample.
I ain't got
Which-
time
and
to
part
jump
of me
through your
goes-
damn hoops.
And part of me goes, what the hell is an HTML? What are you gonna see in an HTML code sample?
Yeah,
Like, what am I gonna give you, a table? Yeah,
Yeah.
here's a table. Like,
great, you know,
right, and who can't write a table?
open hairpin, you know.
So, but,
No, Brian makes an excellent point. It's due diligence. I mean, if you're not willing to put in the effort to do a code sample, then why would someone want to bring you on the team
or a
to,
clean code sample.
right?
I
Well,
mean,
And that's probably the point, is that you're demonstrating that you can do it. And-
you know what I would be demonstrating? I was hungry. I mean, that's the bottom line. I was hungry. If I had done that, it would have been because I was hungry enough to go figure out how to do it and make it happen. And I wasn't hungry enough, you know?
and it doesn't sound like an HTML job is something that you want anyway, but that.
Probably not with what you know about me, so, but yeah.
Alright,
But anyway.
I mean, because there is this thing called the web, Dave, it's pretty neat, you ought to try it.
Really?
Yeah.
I just discovered that there's computers outside of my own little
I know,
world.
Dave. I know.
Yeah.
Man, it's amazing.
We were all there for your, you know.
Yeah.
for your
And they run electronics too.
All right, and the final point of packaging your code sample, it should, you know, complete interpret error. I mean, you don't want a broken code. You know, don't send them something that's you're in the middle of working on, because it needs to be finished, it needs to be polished, it needs to showcase your best moves.
Yeah.
Right. So here's some example of some code samples, and a lot of this is just generic versus specific, and then loop counter versus page counter, loop counter versus duck counter. So the stuff in the red, what do you guys see in there?
I see a C programmer in the red. Sorry.
It's
But
actually a mixture of VB and something else.
yeah, it is, but
This is not straight C sharp, and it sure as hell isn't straight VB.
no, but
The
here's
statements are VB style.
But that's okay, the
yeah,
point is.
the point is the code on the before side is very non-specific and would be much harder to maintain. And that's the bottom line. You know, that's the bottom line, is that you want code that is maintainable.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
Dave, I'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you later. Have a great evening.
You too.
You know, and you're absolutely right. People write code like this. This is why I said I see a C programmer.
What's really crazy is that I don't even think about it anymore. I will automatically write code where the variable names are meaningful, because I'm the one that has to go back and maintain it.
Yeah, yeah. When I was at Rockwell, we got code like this on the before side all the time. And it's completely unmaintainable.
Right, and so.
That's a nightmare.
And see, here's a point, right? So, and this is where we were talking about when you guys asked, what are we looking for? Well, if the before code works, the before code's fine, right? But if I see that and I see somebody else that comes back with the after side, there is a difference, right? And so if you got a guy that just writes code and, it doesn't use the good variable names that, like Thomas said, that he just does now, and I do, and, as I teach my students, right, code like there's an axe murderer behind you and he knows where you live, right?
Exactly.
And honestly, you are the axe murderer. More often than not, you are the next guy that's going to read that code, and you're the first guy that's going to want to kick your own butt because you didn't do it, you didn't document, or you didn't use good variable names, and you're going to be angry.
And it's only been 2 months and you're going, what the heck was I?
Yeah.
What was I trying to do here?
When I wrote this.
Yeah.
I'm so much better today than I was
There's
then. I'm
one
going to
thing
rewrite it all.
Yeah.
There's one thing I see
That's the other
wrong,
problem.
even with the afters.
What is that?
No comments.
You know, I would argue that if you write your code cleanly, you need very few comments.
You still need some comments.
Sometimes.
Why am I making this decision here? What am I looking for? Or
Those types of things, yeah.
especially if I'm doing a split,
Yes, something like that.
Something like that?
Yeah.
Okay, then I will say, what is the string I'm splitting and why am I doing
Right,
it in the code?
yeah.
Because otherwise, you don't remember 6 months later.
What I'm experimenting
You
with,
don't remember, hell, you don't remember 2 days later.
yeah, no kidding. What I'm experimenting with is trying to use the helping system, the help system that's built into Visual Studio.
Triple slash.
Yeah, the triple slash stuff. I am really leaning towards starting to use that to build the help documentation
It's good.
for the whole system.
You know, Dave, one day soon, you might actually be a developer.
6 months ago, I couldn't even spell it.
I know.
Yeah.
It's not a devil developer.
It's not? Oh, man. Yeah.
But Tom, I hear what you're saying, and it's a fine line between too many comments and too little comments, and you gotta find your style and your way. Now,
Yeah.
I don't do a lot of comments like you're doing, but then again, my method names and my variable names are very commonly 20 or 30 characters long.
Yeah, so are mine.
Like, and there's comments at the top of my method that says what this method is going to do.
Exactly.
Once I tell you what the method's going to do, if what I do in the method isn't clear, then I'm screwing something up, right? Because if I tell you my method, I'm taking in a string and I'm splitting it into an array, and then I shouldn't have to say that again. As long as it makes sense.
As long as that's all you're doing,
I
then that's
agree,
fine.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the other thing that I'll do is at the top of a function, when I'm writing one, is what Brian says, to document what the function's doing.
Right.
But also, who calls it, or when is it called?
You don't need to do that.
You don't need to do that anymore. Because you've got all the tools built into the system that do that for you. This code, this function is referenced in 40,000 places.
No, I don't mean that.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is called to when I need calculation for X.
Okay. All right. So anyway, sorry, David.
No.
This is, I really wanted to see this. I was excited when you were doing this. So.
I guess
my own.
the big takeaway, for this is just structured programming conventions. I mean, you want to add comments, you want to pretty much detail your code, and you want to make sure it works. And then when you package it to employers, they will see that you're an asset, and then you can use it. All right, so
Okay, so go ahead.
that is my presentation.
Ah.
All right, so if you need help during your job search, or if you're on the verge of graduating and you're going into the IT realm, I hope you think of me. First person, my name is...
Got it. Yeah.
My name is David Miles, Sabio Systems. We are a local staffing firm that specializes in information technology professions. And my contact info is on the screen. And I appreciate everyone coming in and watching this. Thank you. Give me a hand.
Thank you, David.
Dave's got questions. Dave
Yeah,
never have not have questions.
I got questions now. So are you seeing situations now where these guys are asking for code samples and they want testing samples with them?
It really does depend on the company. A lot of companies will bring people in for interviews and have them write code there and then.
Really?
Right, yeah, kind of
I
a...
used to do that.
Yeah, now that makes more sense to me.
I used to do that. And literally, you would be surprised. I would literally ask somebody to write a console application that asks the user for 7 numbers, total those numbers, multiply them times 10, and give output the end. And there were people who could not do that. Whether it was the pressure or what, they would overly complicate it.
Yep.
They would do a lot of things. There are other times where I would send that assignment out. Instead of asking for a code sample, I'd say, here's a program I want you to write for me. And then I'd have them send me the program.
Code, yeah.
Right, so that I was comparing A to B to A to, everybody was doing the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
I used to do a WebEx session. I would give them access to the keyboard and my mouse and my Visual Studio, and I'd have them write an app for me over the phone.
Oh, that's fun. I like that. Now see, I used to because I did hardware stuff, my favorite question was, you got a modem in this box, and it'll dial the number out, but it never, yeah. And the first time that happened, you were done, you know? But yeah, I mean, you know, and it was a very telling question, you know? It was a logic question test. And if you could answer it, and I would help you a little bit, if you could answer it, then you made it through the first hurdle. So I'm curious though, because I was curious about the unit testing or testing of different types. I'm sure that there are some people looking for test stores and systems integrators and things like that that would require that type of thing for sure.
There absolutely is. And then you could also do things, I mean, they may make you take like a prove it assessment, which is just a multiple choice, you know, question. Those aren't always that accurate just because, you know, a lot of times, you know, I mean, 25% of your answers are going to be right.
You can take a
Yes.
test.
You know,
Right.
Ryan, let me ask you a question. I know myself, I don't test well sometimes. And if you write this code right here and now at me, I do tend to clutch. But let me sit down and think about it and write it, I'll do a much better job. It's hard, I lose on that kind of an interview requirement.
I can generally tell, and I do coach, because like you'd be surprised how many people can't write a console app. Like they just never have, right?
No, because it's,
who writes console apps anymore?
Damn sure.
Right? So, and the reason I use a console app is because I really want to minimize the amount of moving parts of the assignment. So
I understood why.
So I have to teach people, and that usually helps out a lot, is to kind of give them, you know, is to teach them and then allow them to, you know, I can coach them through it usually, you know.
right, and it gets them going.
Mostly what I'm more interested in seeing when I watch this isn't necessarily, you know, did you just completely like lose your cool and you can't finish it, or did you just overly complicate this problem? Because that's a problem I have.
Right.
I have a problem with developers that, what?
I can't write a console app anymore.
Oh, you will. You will write console apps when I get done with you.
But,
I ain't submitting a code sample.
but, you know, but that's the, you know, the deal was to really see how they thought, right? It wasn't so much that, you know, because the program, you know, you'd be surprised, because like literally this was an assignment I give to like program 1 people. Like this is like a week 2 assignment this is the basic loop assignment. Can you write a loop and ask somebody the question 7 times, get the number,
And then do something with
and
the
then
number.
do something with the number?
Yeah.
Like it really is, you know, it really wasn't that complicated. And people started putting in arrays, and I'm like, what do you need an array for? Like,
Yeah.
you know, this is not an array, you know, but, you know.
Well, you said 7 numbers, and I don't know what to do with that, you know?
Well, there's also,
num equals, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a cultural fit too for each hiring manager. So you get in and you have someone write code and they start to clutch. A person will see how they react to that. I mean, maybe they'll ask for help, which will go a long way for wanting to bring someone on the team.
There's another little aspect to this too, and that is, you go up against this with Brian, and you write it one way and you pass. You go up against this with you and you write it the same way, you're gonna fail.
Could be.
Or I'm gonna fail if I'm
Yeah.
the one writing for you.
Could be.
Because you have the subjectivity of a hiring manager you can't avoid it, it's there.
But Tom, that also goes directly to what he was saying. It's a cultural fit thing
Right.
too. And that's, you know, I lost a job just a month and a half ago, because I said something stupid. Huh? That was the only thing I said all day. It was stupid, guys. Come on. So, but yeah, I mean, you know, and it was.
I don't think what you said was that stupid.
Yeah, I know. But it was an off the cuff comment on my part that scared the guy who was trying to hire me. You know, or at least that was his excuse. You know, it could have been any number of things.
Was that the feedback you got from the recruiters?
Yeah.
That's the problem. If I go in and I'm interviewing with you, I have no idea. You may have a particular topic or something that as soon as I start talking about it, X, and I'm out. And I have no way of knowing
And
that.
guess what? You're better off for it.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
You're better
Yeah.
off for it.
Like, it may not seem so short term, but.
Right.
But-
And you know, for a day I was going, oh, damn, I wish I, but I was being completely honest. Yeah.
One of my favorite the fastest interview I ever had, right? Thank you for coming in, you know, tell me a little bit about yourself. Well, I'm a C# developer, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, this happens to be a Visual Basic .NET shop, so, oh, I don't write Visual Basic.NET. Okay,
Well, good to see you.
It was good to see you, thank you for coming in. Oh, well, maybe I can do 50, no, there's no 50, you either write Visual Basic or you don't.
Yeah.
You said you don't.
Yeah.
So therefore, we're done. Thank you, here's your hour back, I take my hour back.
And it's over.
It was over, and that guy was just shocked, like just floored, like that was my answer, you know?
Yeah.
But the reality is that, yeah, there's cultural things and there's stuff, and that's the hardest thing, you know? I hire teams, like I hire for a team, I don't really get into technical interviews, and even that little programming quiz thing I did was just to basically to see if people were going to overly complicate things.
Right.
Because I was having a problem, I still have a problem where, you know, I'm like, you know, you could do that with a database, but you went ahead and wrote an MSMQ app, and I'm really like, I'm kind of like, you know, you've over-engineered this thing.
That's really cool, but we're not a C shop,
Right.
C class.
And so, you know, so I tend to, that's what I use to weed people out, without going in and going, tell me all of the attributes of the data grid.
Right.
Because,
Yeah, nobody's gonna know those.
right,
Well, that was the one thing that I started doing when I was hiring, was I started looking for people who I thought would be a good team player. Dan Bricklin, the lone programmer out there writing VisCalc.
Yeah.
Those don't work in a corporate environment,
Nope.
because you have got to collaborate with people and you have got to work with other programmers who are working on other pieces of the same project. And if you want to go off on the mountaintop and write the code, I don't want you on my team.
right.
Because that's the wrong, God bless you if you can do it.
Right.
Because you'll make some killer apps that way.
Yeah.
But in a corporate environment where you have personnel turnover and you have to maintain code and all that other stuff going on, you have got to have people that can work effectively with others.
I remember I sat in the room in one of these meetings next to this kid, and I talked to another kid, and kid A told kid B, I rewrote the ASP.NET HTTP handler because I didn't like the way it was handling my code.
Yeah.
And I was, all I could do is, I'm just sitting here, I'm like, I just, like, the manager in me went, did you tell your boss you did this? Did your boss pay you to rewrite, you know, quality Microsoft code because
You didn't like the
because
way
you
it.
didn't like something?
Yeah.
You know, and you know, and I just immediately was like, and that guy will never come to work for me.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm struggling with this now.
I understand that.
Yeah, well, this was what led to the comment of this looks like C code on the left-hand side up there, because that was the environment in the 80s and 90s when I was working in the defense industry. We had a bunch of C code jockeys that, man, the coolest thing they could do was manipulate memory, you know,
And they thought it was clever.
and they thought it was clever.
Yeah.
And they didn't have to do a bit of that to get the job done.
No, and they also made the maintenance headache.
I gotta tell you, that's the one thing I am extremely happy that I've never had to deal with. Pointers.
Yeah.
I've done pointers.
There's no reason on God's green earth why you should
I
have
have
to
been
do
in a managed
Star,
code
star.
environment.
Yeah.
I've been in a managed code environment my entire career, and I am
Oh.
thanking God about it.
Yeah, but that's the point, you know?
Right.
And these guys would sit down, and I swear to God, they spent their days trying to make that code as esoteric as they could possibly make it.
I'm gonna play one-upsmanship. I'll show my age again.
Yeah,
I wrote assembler.
yeah,
And we had a guy in the shop who, you know what, you could take one of the words of an assembly language instruction and from another location, pop a new address into it. So now this jump instruction didn't
go where you thought it was
where
going.
where it was originally written, and he thought that this was the coolest thing that he could do was he would sit there and modify the code, the program, which you could do in assembler.
Yeah,
And anybody trying to come in and look at that behind him would be lost.
yeah,
Because it would take you literally years to figure out, to find this other little piece of code where he had modified the target address for that jump instruction.
yep.
I
I've seen it.
damn near killed him.
So anyway,
Yeah, war stories, David. Got me
That's
more.
all right, no.
yeah.
Do you guys have any other questions? How about you? I really want to hear what you have to say.
I just need to finish, I just want to talk to you about giving you my resume once it's finished.
Absolutely. And, I definitely want to go over it and we could brainstorm.
I need to finish the side projects I'm on.
So,
What kind of
let
site
me
projects
give
are
you,
you
let me
doing?
give you some advice here. You need to get your resume together, you need to get some code on Git, and you need to get it in David's hands.
Yep.
Because,
And you need to get a haircut.
no, you don't.
Not anymore.
No, you don't.
Not anymore.
Then you're not gonna interview me.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true. I mean, if you go and, maybe interview with the
I just got
Pentagon.
out of work and I had my hat all day.
Oh, no, you're just joking around.
No.
You're just joking around.
Listen, the last interview I went to, I had full beard. Like, I mean, we're talking full beard.
Grizzly Adams, yeah, so
Yeah.
don't worry about it, but, so, I've seen this before, and side projects and all these other things are great, and you always wanna complete them, and then you don't, and then because you didn't take the time to just get what code you have up on Git, and get your resume going, then you're not doing the job search. So, get the resume out there, get your side project up on Git or visualstudio.com, and Rob can help you with either one. So if you don't know how to do it, just go ahead and get it out there and get David to help you and get started now.
Then tweak it.
And then you can tweak it and modify it as you go.
Yep.
Um,
Tweak, tweak, tweak.
because, the truth is, there's never enough time to finish the side job. You've got school, you have school projects. You have all of those school projects that you did, those are samples for your Git page. Those are things that you can be putting out there to show, because I always hear this from students too, I ain't got anything, I don't work anywhere. Well, you've been writing code at school for 2 years.
And some of that is pretty dang slick code.
And even if it isn't slick, it just shows, look, here's what I did. Here's what my teacher made me do these things.
Yeah, and I jumped through that hoop.
Because if you say to me, oh, I'm in school, I'm at CNM and I'm taking these classes, and you show me your code, I'm not expecting your code to make me go, wow, that's the craziest Java 2 code I've ever seen. No, it should just look like good Java 2 code, right? Remember that, like, if you're going into an entry-level position, and if you can show me more than the other guy that's going into the entry-level position, you got a leg up, right? All things being equal.
You're trying to demonstrate that you understand the basics of writing code and how to do it cleanly. Nobody expects you to have in-depth experience or some revolutionary new idea for coding a particular logic problem. But you do want to demonstrate that you have the basic skill set and you know how to do it right. Yep. They'll teach you the rest of it. That's why there's entry-level positions.
Yeah, so get it out there. Don't wait for the last minute. Don't wait till you're gonna, don't wait till
Don't wait till you get your last grade.
you get your grade, you graduate or whatever, because, he's got temporary positions, he's got contract positions, these companies have lots of different gigs that, that they can help you with, and help you get going on, look for the coder weekends that they have, the codathons, the hackathons and whatnot that, because those are other opportunities to, not just team up with better developers, but, you know, also come out with some code with, you know, here's what me and my team built.
Yeah, and show up here
Yeah.
when we have meetings.
Every month.
Because trust me, there are nuggets here sometimes that are just unbelievably useful. And all of a sudden, you get a different flavor of what you're doing and stuff. And you get your experience, you get your mind broadened, you know.
You got to talk with people who've been doing this their whole career. That's invaluable.
Yeah, and then you can tell how stupid some of us are, you know.
Yeah.
You know, that's okay, you know.
And Miss, do you have any questions?
Do not?
Okay.
Cool.
Well, I just want to thank the .NET user group once again. I want to thank Brian and you know, Tom, Dave, everyone for coming. And this was a good meeting. Probably the best one we've ever had.
Well, we gotta get after it.